It is wonderful to see you all. And I have the great pleasure to read some stories to you today. And let's enjoy them together. The first one is a story by the Bernstein Bears, Lend a Helping Hand, which is something that is a good idea to do, especially now.
Hi.
Mama and Papa Bear were like most parents. They wanted the best for their cubs. Brother and sister were like most cubs. They wanted the best for themselves. Not only the best, but the biggest and the most as well. The best place in front of the TV. 1 second.
Hi.
The biggest piece of cake and the most jelly.
Hi, Theo.
One night, when the squabbling cubs were sound asleep, Mama lay awake worrying. She sighed
That doesn't
a
work.
big sigh.
Gadget
What was
doesn't
that
work.
sigh? Asked Papa, turning over. Was that a sigh or just the wind whistling through the leaves of our treehouse? We've got to find a way of teaching brother and sister to mend their selfish ways, she said. Do you have any suggestions?
Me.
But zzz was Papa's only suggestion. He had fallen asleep, leaving Mama alone with her thoughts. All right, let's keep everyone muted for now so that everyone will be able to hear. All right. I've got to find a way, thought Mama, to teach them that it's just as important to help others as it is to help themselves. But how? Lecturing hasn't worked. Nagging hasn't worked. Having Papa talk to them seems to do more harm than good. As Mama lay there, she thought about how cubs learn. Cubs learn by doing. They learn to walk by walking. They learn to run by running. They learn to climb by climbing. That's the answer, thought Mama. The cubs will learn to help others by helping others. Thank you for the reminder to show the pictures. I'll try to remember to do that. As it happened, those questions would soon be answered. The who turned out to be Ms. McGrizz, the elderly widow who lived just down the street. The when turned out to be just the next day, and the where turned out to be at the checkout line at the supermarket. Hello, Miss Grizz, said Mama as she emptied her cart at the checkout counter. Here's the checkout counter. Hello yourself, said Ms. Grizz. How are you and yours? Just fine, said Mama. Some of mine are over there looking at the videos. Cubs, say hello to our neighbor. Hi, Ms. McGrizz, said brother and sister. The cubs were a little nervous about Ms. McGrizz. She was really old, even older than Gramps and Gran, and kind of bent over. And there was that crookedy cane she used when she walked. But the real reason they were nervous about her was when their ball had gone into her yard and knocked over some tulips, they had never apologized. When Mama and the cubs were loading their groceries into the car, Ms. McGrizz came out of the supermarket pushing her little collapsible shopping cart. Where are you going? Called Mama. To the bus stop, she said. The bus goes right by my house. So does our car, said Mama. Cubs, help Ms. McGrizz into the car and put her things into the trunk. That's very kind, said Ms. McGrizz, as sister helped her into the car. My goodness, she added as brother put her things into the trunk. It must be wonderful to have such helpful cubs. Yes, it is, said Mama as she started the car. Most of the time. It certainly would be wonderful for me, said Ms. McGriz. Oh, said Mama. When the cubs realized they were being talked about, they leaned forward to hear better. Yes, said Ms. McGriz, I need a little help with something. By now, brother and sister were leaning so far forward that the seatbelts were pulling at them. Thought Mama. Maybe this is the chance I've been looking for, the chance for brother and sister to learn to help others. I wonder, said Ms. McGriz, and this is just a thought, but I wonder if perhaps brother and sister could find the time to help me clean up my attic. It's an awful mess. I'd pay them, of course. Brother and sister looked at each other. They didn't say anything, but their expressions spoke volumes. Help Ms. McGriz clean her attic? What about soccer? What about listening to records with Lizzie? What about playing video games with Cousin Fred? Well, I, for one, think that's a wonderful idea, said Mama. Cubs, how does next Saturday sound? She pulled the car in close to Ms. McGriz's house. Next Saturday, said the cubs. She meant after Shabbos. Well, careful now, said Ms. McGriz. These steps are rather rickety. It was Saturday night, and the cubs were following her up to the attic. Here is the attic. When they reached the top of the steps, brother and sister just stared for a moment. Well, here we are, said Ms. McGriz. They were indeed. A strange feeling came over the cubs as they looked at the piles of old things. It was as if they had walked into the middle of her whole life. There was a dressmaker's dummy with half a dress pinned on it. There were old magazines. There was an amazing ship in a bottle. Wow, said brother. It has all the rigging. That was my late husband's hobby, explained Ms. McGriz. What's this? Asked sister. A radio, of course, Ms. McGriz said. A radio, said sister. It looks like a little building. Do you think it still plays? Asked brother. Let's plug it in and find out, said Ms. McGriz. Brother plugged it in and turned it on. Music came pouring out of the strange old radio, rock music. As the cubs stood listening to rock music coming out of a radio that looked like a building, they had the funniest feeling about how time works. It went back into the past and forward into the future. But now it was in the present, and they had work to do. Papa was right. Ms. McGriz's attic was kind of interesting. Ms. McGriz organized two really big boxes. One was marked throwaways, and one was marked keepers. You know, said brother, we're going to have a system if we're going to ever get this job done. Ms. McGriz agreed. Here's what they did. They sat Ms. McGriz in a comfy old chair and brought things for her to decide about. Like that. Then she looked at each thing and said, keep it or chuck it. But as the morning went on, the cubs began to worry. It seemed to brother and sister that she was chucking some pretty interesting things. They were beginning to get an idea. It was just before lunch when the cubs found some really interesting things. What's this, Ms. McGriz? It looks like a really old Barbie doll. A really, really old Barbie doll. That's what it is, she said. It's the original Barbie I had when I was a cub. After lunch in the attics, the cubs told her their idea. There's a lot of great stuff in here. You shouldn't throw it away. But what would I do with it? She asked. Have a garage sale, said sister. Goodness, said old Ms. McGriz. I don't know about that. I don't have a garage. You have a yard, don't you? Said brother. You can have a yard sale. Ms. McGriz gave sister the original Barbie doll that she had when she was a cub, and she gave brother the Babe Bruin rookie card. Wow, said sister. Double wow, said Brother. Okay. Now I want to read you a story. It's one of my all-time favorite stories. And it is a story that my mother used to read to me when I was a little boy. And this story is called Yertle the Turtle by Dr. Seuss. On the faraway island of Salamalsand, Yertle the Turtle was king of the pond. A nice little pond. It was clean. It was neat. The water was warm. There was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need, and they were all happy, quite happy indeed. They were, until Yertle, the king of them all, decided the kingdom he ruled was too small. Here's Yertle, the king, and he looks like he's not so happy. I'm ruler, said Yertle, of all that I see, but I don't see enough of all that I see. That's the trouble with me. With this stone for a throne, I look down on my pond, and I cannot look down on the places beyond. This stone that I sit on is too low down. It ought to be higher, he said with a frown. If I could sit high, how much greater I'd be. What a king! I'd be ruler of all I could see. So Yertle the Turtle lifted his hand, and Yertle the Turtle gave a command. He ordered 9 turtles to swim to his stone, and using these turtles, he built a new throne. Look at the new throne. He made each turtle stand on another's back, and he piled them all up in a 9 turtle stack. And then Yertle climbed up. He sat down on the pile. What a wonderful view. He could see almost a mile. All mine, Yertle cried. Oh, the things I now rule. I'm king of a cow, and I'm king of a mule. I'm king of a house, and what's more beyond that, I'm king of a blueberry bush and a cat. All the things that he can see. I'm Yertle the Turtle, oh marvelous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see. And all through that morning he sat there up high, saying over and over, a great king am I, until along about noon, he heard a faint sigh. What's that? Snapped the king, and he looked down the stack, and he saw at the bottom a turtle named Mac, just a part of his throne, and this plain little turtle looked up and he said, beg your pardon, King Yertle. I've pains in my back and my shoulders and knees. How long must we stand here, your majesty, please? It doesn't look so comfortable to have to stand like that all day. Silence! The king of the turtles barked back. I'm king. You're only a turtle named Mac. You stay in your place while I sit here and rule. I'm king of a cow, and I'm king of a mule. I'm king of a house and a bush and a cat. But that isn't all. I'll do better than that. My throne shall be higher. His royal voice thundered. So pile up more turtles. I want about 200 turtles. More turtles, he bellowed and brayed, and the turtles way down in the pond were afraid. They trembled, they shook, but they came. They obeyed. From all over the pond they came swimming by dozens, whole families of turtles with uncles and cousins. Here they're all coming. And all of them stepped on the head of poor Mac. One after another they climbed up the stack. Then Yertle the turtle was perched up so high he could see 40 miles from his throne in the sky. Hooray, shouted Yertle. I'm king of the trees. I'm king of the birds, and I'm king of the bees. I'm king of the butterflies, king of the air. Ah, me, what a throne. What a wonderful chair. Look how high up he is now. I'm Yertle the turtle, oh marvelous me, for I am the ruler of all I can see. Then again, from below, in the great heavy stack, came a groan from that plain little turtle named Mac. Your Majesty, please, I don't like to complain, but down here below we are feeling great pain. I know up on top you're seeing great sights, but down at the bottom we too should have rights. We turtles can't stand it. Our shells will all crack. Besides, we need food. We are starving, groaned Mac. You hush up your mouth, howled the mighty King Yertle. You've no right to talk to the world's highest turtle. I rule from the clouds. Over land, over sea, there is nothing, no, nothing that is higher than me. But while he was shouting, he saw with surprise that the moon of the evening was starting to rise up over his head in the darkening skies. What's that? Snorted Yertle. Say, what is that thing that dares to be higher than Yertle the king? I shall not allow it. I'll go higher still. I'll build my throne higher. I can and I will. I'll call some more turtles. I'll stack them to heaven. I need about 5,607. But as Yertle the turtle lifted his hand and started to order and give the command, that plain little turtle below in the stack, that plain little turtle whose name was just Mac, decided he'd taken enough, and he had. And that plain little turtle got a little bit mad, and that plain little turtle did a plain little thing. He burped. And his burp shook the throne of the king. And Yertle the turtle, the king of the trees, the king of the air, and the king of the bees, the king of the house, and a cow and a mule. Well, that was the end of Turtle King's rule, for Yertle the king of all Salamasan fell off his high throne and fell plunk into the pond. And today, Yertle, that marvelous he, is king of the mud. That's all he can see. And the turtles, of course, all the turtles are free. As turtles, and maybe all creatures should be. Okay. I have one more, a very short story. So this is a short story about the wise men of Chelm. And I think that a lot of people make a mistake. Some people think that the wise men of Chelm were actually very foolish and silly, but that's not true. The wise men of Chelm were actually very, very wise. It's just that they had a different way of expressing their wisdom. So here's a story. I don't have any pictures for this story, but it's a very short story that goes like this. Chelm was a small town many, many years ago with lots of wonderful Jewish people in it in Europe, far away. A group of citizens in the town of Chelm were busy digging a foundation for a new synagogue when a disturbing thought occurred to one of the workers. What are we going to do with all the earth we're digging up? We certainly can't just leave it here when our synagogue is built. There was a lot of excitement as the men rested on their shovels and pondered the question. Suggestions were made and just as quickly rejected. Suddenly, one of the men of Chelm held up his hand for silence. I have the solution, he said. We will make a deep pit and we'll shovel all the earth we're digging up for the shul into the pit. A round of applause greeted this idea until another man from Chelm raised his voice in protest. That won't work at all. What will we do with the earth from the pit? There was a stunned silence as they tried to cope with this new problem. But the first man from Chelm soon had an answer. It's very simple. We'll dig another pit, and into that one we'll shovel all the earth we're digging now, and all the earth we take out of the first pit. The only thing is, we must be careful to make sure the second pit is twice as large as the first one. Finally, I want to leave you just with these last two very short stories of Chelm. A man once came to the Rabbi of Chelm and he asked him the question. Think about this question. Which is more important, the sun or the moon? Well, the rabbi said, that's an easy question. The moon, of course. The moon shines at night when we really need it. But who needs the sun to shine when it's already daylight? Last one. There was a teacher in Chelm, and he was quite poor. One day he was speaking to his wife, and he said, if I were Rothschild, Rothschild was the name of a man who was the wealthiest Jewish person in all of Europe at that time. So this poor teacher said, if I were Rothschild, I'd be richer than him. His wife said to him, how could that be? If you were Rothschild, you'd both be the same. True, he said, but I would do a little teaching on the side. My friends, it's great to be with you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you again soon and reading some more stories. If you have any other ideas for what you would like to see, let me know, and I will try to provide it. Bye-bye to everybody.